Do it.
Hello, this is Kyla from Hidden Gems Literary Emporium. Today we have Mr. Theo Clarkson, who's the author of this book, Muddied Waters, which is on display here at Hidden Gems. Thank you, Theo, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
And Theo is here all the way from Canada.
Toronto, Ontario. Yes.
Toronto, Ontario. And so, but we're in the same time zone.
Same time zone. Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah. Good morning. Do you guys have the daylight savings time in New Jersey as well, or?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're exactly on the same time.
Yeah, but we don't have what I'll call a real clock. So our
Yeah.
clock just does it. Um, so we don't have to worry about that. But
Okay.
thank you for being here and for producing this very beautiful and soft book, Muddied Waters. Paper really does make a difference though, because the cover is quite soft and it feels like one of those books that you don't want to mess up in your book
Yeah.
bag. Even me, I'm reading it right now, as you can see, and I carefully put it in my book bag because you just don't want it to get ruined.
Yeah.
So, okay, introduce yourself very briefly. Tell us about how you started writing and what inspires you to write this book specifically.
So, it's God. I initially started writing about 6 years ago. Has nothing to do with what my day job is or what I do for a living, but I was always into writing. I was always a bookworm, and I've always been very passionate about pirate history, more specifically like the Golden Age. You know, as a kid, obviously one of my favorite books was Treasure Island. I watched different movie adaptations on it, and as I grew up, and the more I tried to get into like reading more stories about it, like Raphael Sabatini's Black Swan and Captain Blood, and then later on watching like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, all the way to the latest Stars show, Black Sails. I just had a bit of a problem with how the times and the people were being portrayed. It just seems so much in contrast with like the history books that I read on the subjects and the characters and the people. And I just started questioning, like, why are you guys making this into like this whole fantasy theme where like the real life actual events are much more interesting. So what caused me to write this book was I was reading one of my history books, and there was this instance in the late 1720 or it was early 1720s. This Portuguese viceroy was retiring from Goa in India, and he had all of his entire retirement savings, as well as the Portuguese king's commission on the galleon. And then this thing was a huge ship, very well manned, very well armed, but they hit some really bad luck. They hit a bad storm, and the mast got damaged. And these pirates, the very next day, just by complete accident, just stumbled on them, and they were like a sitting duck. And they just took everything, ran off, were never heard from again. And I just kept thinking about that. I'm like, that just seems like such a great uh, jump off for a story. So I kind of did my own adaptation of that first chapter of that actual event, and then everything after was just me making up a story, but at the same time keeping it accurate and kind of trying to be a little more educational for people who grew up on Johnny Depp.
Yeah. And we love books that have historical roots in them, even if they're fiction. And we, especially the youth that come in here, but just everyone, we tell them, if you take the time to research names or places in fictional books, you will find that they actually probably have roots in history in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
so just like your book. So give us a brief synopsis of what this book is about.
You like thematically?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I am a big proponent. So when it comes to these stories, I'm not into black and white, good versus evil, um, type. Like good versus evil is just too simplistic and black and white of a concept to me. I'm into gray area. I'm into flawed characters, human characters. And that was one of the things that I really focused on in this book, is to have an ensemble of characters that were not fully good and not fully bad, just people, making their way across the world based on their based on their own circumstances, and how they were shaped by their own environments. Um, and that was a big theme that I wanted to put out there, that no pirate is a good or a rebel, or fighting against the establishment for like some loyal cause. They're just out there to get theirs, just like the rich people that they're stealing from. They're very, very similar in this sense. So that's something that I like, that I wanted to explore. To a lesser extent, I also wanted to explore a little bit on like material greed. Like how far will you go to get the gold? Like how badly do you want to be rich? Like how much are you willing to give up to have that? And there were a few other themes as well that I'm just not thinking of right now. But those were the two major themes that I wanted to explore here.
And I've picked up on that as I'm reading with the characters, because they teach you in school, there's the protagonist and antagonist. There's good person and
Yeah,
bad person. And
yeah,
then as you're reading, for example, Bello and
mm.
um, oh, what's the other? The Kahuna. No, not, it's not. I kept saying Kahuna, but it's
Cunha. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Rodrigo de Cunha. Yeah,
yes. And so I'm reading and I'm trying to feel. I'm like, wait, is this guy? Is he a good guy? Is he going to
yeah,
do something bad, or
yeah,
is that? You can't really tell. You
yeah,
can't categorize them really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
You
that I really didn't want that. I don't want anybody put in a category or in a box or anything like that.
right. Would you say there is a main character in this book?
Not really. I guess just based on if it's based on their vocation, I guess Jackson Teague. I mean, he is the pirate captain. He is like, I guess I don't want to compare him to Johnny Depp, but like the Johnny Depp type, you know. Personally, for me, my favorite character that I enjoyed writing the most was Oet. Oet was by far my favorite.
Owiti.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that name?
So all the names that I came up with, I Googled based on like where my character was from and their cultures. And Oiti, I forget the culture, but it means thrown away.
Hmm.
Now I forget which language that is now, off the top of my head, but based on his character and who he was and how he was rejected by both his own, like he's just in between, he's that character that's just in between worlds and doesn't really belong anywhere. So I
Hmm.
felt Oiti, based on what that meant, what that name meant, was just the perfect fit.
Right. That's interesting. Um, okay, format wise, just talking
Hmm.
about how it looks.
Okay.
I really like the font. It kind of feels like, I guess it feels like the time period that this book is in.
Okay.
Um, I also really like the names of the chapters. I don't know, maybe I'm a nerd, but
Yeah.
I the table of contents, and I like when you could look at the table of contents and it kind of pulls you into the story. Like chapter 5, degenerates and deviants. Ooh, it almost makes you want to skip to that chapter and see
Yeah.
what it's about. So
Yeah, I love making up chapter names. It's a huge enjoyment. Every time I read a book, and even if it's especially if it's a book that I really like and it's just numbered chapters, I'm just like, what are you doing? It's such a lost opportunity to just like add a little oomph to it, you know? Like why not just throw something up there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you write the chapter first and then title it, or do you write the chapter titles first and then write the chapters?
It's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Sometimes I come up with a chapter name that I think is really cool, and I'll just like squirrel that away. And
Mhm.
then, you know, there's other times where I'm writing the chapter and halfway through something else hits me that I think describes it better.
Okay.
So I just with what like I just use whatever works.
Yeah. At what point do you say, okay, for me personally, for example,
Mhm.
when I'm writing poetry, it feels like every time I rewrite it, I change something. And so I'm trying to work on coming to a point where I'm like, nope, I'm not going to change it. This is the way it's going to be. And
Yeah.
so at what point for you did you have that moment with this book where you're like, okay, this is it. This is final copy. I'm putting it out right now.
I don't think that you can ever really achieve that. I mean, I don't think I definitely couldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, just like us, like this got delayed by a few weeks because I just got hit with I don't know what, and I ended up re-editing it again, right?
Yeah.
And each time I read it, I find something that I want to change. And most of the time, once I've done all of my thorough editing and I continue to edit, I start to question like, did I just change it back to what it was before? Like,
Right.
am I just going back and forth now? Like that's I guess that's the point where I'm just like, all right, for that's it. Like I literally can't make this any more better to my own satisfaction. So I just have to let it go.
Yeah.
And I did that for years and then I just re-edited it again. So who knows? I might end up doing it again. I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, it's not going to change the actual story. It's all just like it's just nitpicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there'll be some of your readers out there that'll be like, I have this copy, and then he re-edited it, and then I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
have
Well,
this.
maybe. Yeah.
You know, there's collectors and readers out there like that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your vocabulary because, like I said in your email, there's so many in my copy, of course. There's so many words that are
Mhm.
underlined that should be used for vocabulary lessons. And
Okay.
so, have you always had a colorful vocabulary as a child?
Um, yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I actually, now that you mention it, there were some instances in school where I would use a word and the other kids would look at me like, all right, Poindexter, like, what the hell does that mean, right? Um, so I that yeah, I guess it just comes from reading, you know. You want to learn words, read. That's just it.
Yeah, agreed. I used to read, I mean, and I still do. I used to just read dictionaries and encyclopedias and just,
Yeah.
even still now we keep one on us so that when we're reading Muddied Waters and we come across a word, I'm just going to any word that I see underlined right now.
Right.
Um, chortled,
Yeah.
chortled,
Chortled. Yeah.
chort,
Yeah.
chortled means, I mean, and then that's the other thing about words, like, you know what it means, but you can't say it.
Like a gruff giggle or
Yes,
something. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. There's, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I'm writing, my thesaurus.com browser is open at all times, right?
Right.
So, words don't come to me as easily as you might think. Sometimes I'm like, man, I know there's something there that works better. I just can't think of it. So
Yeah.
thank God for thesaurus.com.
Yeah, and we have a oh, it's in the car. We have such a great thesaurus, and it's so worn, but we will never let it go. And
Yeah.
it separates things into categories. So let's say you want to look up the word synonyms for the word golden. You
Yeah.
go to golden and it has a code next to it, but then it has other codes because sometimes the meaning is slightly different. And
Yeah.
then go to the code and there's a list of like 50 words that can mean golden. And
Yeah.
so we also use a thesaurus when we are writing poetry because
Yeah.
we tend to use the same words. But
Does it
it's,
feel like you're cheating? Because I feel like sometimes I'm like, man, am I cheating here? Should I know this? Like, am I?
I thought that for about 30 seconds, and then I'm like, no, not cheating. This is being resourceful. This is
Yeah.
and utilize. And
Yeah.
it's funny when we're performing, and sometimes we see the reaction when we use certain words. They're like, what is that? They almost want to ask their friend, but
Yeah.
maybe they'll Google it, and now they know
Yeah.
a new word. And so we did our job.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So that's what I think. Okay. Well, before I want to randomly flip open and read a paragraph and talk about it.
Okay.
Should I do that first? Yeah, I'm gonna do that now. Okay. I opened up to, let's see what chapter I'm in. I'm in chapter 18 called A Pernicious God.
Okay.
And then so I am being led to this right here. Okay. It says, for those of anybody who's watching this that has the book, I'm on page 186, and it says, "Reload," Milligan shouted, and Alger. I meant to ask you, is it Alger or Alger?
It's a Alger. Alger. Yeah.
And Alger began mopping out the remaining embers in the barrel of his cannon. As the boy picked up the sack of gunpowder, ready to reload, a wave hit the stricken Portuguese vessel. Its damaged portside hull smashed into the smaller Liberty, throwing everyone off their feet. Oh, this is kind of like a spoiler for me. Gunpowder spilled everywhere. Milligan picked himself up to see the cannons, and I'm just upset because this is a spoiler. It really is. Okay. I'm gonna get over it. Milligan picked himself up to see the cannons in complete disarray, the sailors struggling to steer them once again into the bulwark.
Yeah.
That's almost like my last name. My last name is Bulware. So that's kind of footsteps pounded around on the main deck. That was their one shot with the big guns. The enemy had boarded. Okay, so talk about that scene, even though I'm like, man.
Well, man, I do you though, because I'm just gonna like spoiler it even more, I think.
I know, and I didn't even want to ask the
I don't
question.
know.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know what else. It's, I would say, I don't know at what point do I name the climax of the book, but I think some people might call it that chapter. But there's more that happens, like, clearly, because it's, only chapter 18 and there's 30, I think, in total. So there's more that happens. I mean, why not have multiple climaxes? That's one of them, for sure.
I I like the way you answer that question,
Yeah.
answering the question without answering it, even though you
Yeah.
did answer it, but without telling too much. Because
Very political of me.
and I think it's cool that the book has multiple climaxes because it's like
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen to the characters, the people, the ship.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? They got boarded. But
Yeah.
you didn't make it that far. But it's cool when you read stories and you have that type of reaction, because then you know
Yeah.
that the reader is really into what they're reading as opposed
Yeah.
to just reading it and be like, okay, and then this happened, okay.
Yeah.
But and your use of vocabulary really does help readers stay in it as well because it's like, ooh, ponderously. It it
Yeah.
co- it helps you envision in your mind what's actually happened, and then it also might even force you to look up a word, and then now you're on the page longer, and then you reread the sentence now knowing what the word means, and then
Yeah.
keeps you going like that.
Yeah. That's
Um,
very rewarding.
I
It's
agree.
very, it's rewarding. Yeah.
hmm Let's talk about. Okay, I have two more questions for you.
All right.
Let's talk about this beautifully crafted cover.
Yeah.
So the cover is, well, you can see the sky, but there's also an ocean, and there's one of the characters. Is this a specific character, or is this just a
That's not a specific character. No.
okay?
That's
Um,
why I made sure to make her be like disguise the face. I don't want to see a face. I don't want to have to pick someone.
this might sound like a nerdy question. How did you choose the paper?
I didn't. It was Kindle. It was KDP. I
Oh,
mean, I choose like the finish. I went with matte instead of glossy. And like the paper, I didn't choose the paper. That's just, I guess, the paper that they print. The font was done by the formatting service that I used. So I didn't choose that either. But if we're gonna talk about the cover real quick, it's a metaphor. I mean, when we were just talking about material greed and what it does to you, I think that's a good visual representation of that, as in regards to pirates in the 1700s.
and it's funny because, and I just smiled because I just really noticed that he's he's risking his life trying to pull up the gold, and all the gold is falling out.
Oh no, he's condemning himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's deep. That's a whole poem.
Yeah.
Seriously, that is because
Yeah.
this is a visual representation of what I feel people go through every single day on the
Chasing
like
that dollar. Yeah.
chasing the bag, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while the bag has a huge hole in it,
Yeah.
and money is just falling out, falling out, falling out, falling out, and in the process, you can get sick, or you could lose your mind. You could lose your life, and then it was all for what?
Yeah.
Um, Last question, and then I'm gonna wrap up.
Okay.
Do you plan on writing more books in the future?
Yes. Yes, I do. I have a novella out on Kindle. It's just the e-reader version because it's only about 100 pages long. So I didn't go through the process of turning it into a paperback. But I have a novella called The Eternal Return. I released it about a year after this one. It's a post-apocalyptic story. I just finished writing, and my editor just sent me back the copies or the files for Muddied Waters Coda, which is the sequel to this that I never planned on writing. I was never I'm not a big fan of a series. I like standalone books, and I always wanted to just do that. But I had one character, that this female character, that she was such a badass, but I just couldn't fit her into this story because it just felt a little too crowded. And that bothered me to the point where I ended up writing a sequel over it. I, broke my rule. So there's that. I have two more ideas as well. I want to try my hand at writing a fantasy too at some point, which that's long on the horizon if I ever get it done.
Would it be a fantasy about pirates, or would it be a fantasy about something completely different?
No, no, no. I'm done talking about pirates. There's no more pirates. There's the sequel, and then there'll be no more pirates.
Okay.
This will be the fantasy is more of the, I don't want to say generic, but type Game of Thrones type deal stuff, whatever. Not like it. I'm not gonna, it's gonna be its own story, but I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, probably last question, seriously.
Okay, all
Do
right.
you ever think about the potential, the possibility of turning any of your books, especially this one, into a movie of sorts?
Oh my God. Yeah. I fantasize about it constantly. I'm already thinking like, whoa, which director would I get? You know, it's fun. It's fun thinking about it. But yeah, yeah, I definitely would like, it would be like winning the lottery times 1,000, having this be adapted by Netflix or whoever, Amazon. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care who does it, but it would be really, really cool.
It would also be cool to produce um, a short, like 3 to 5 minutes of a really cool scene, and you could submit it to film festivals. Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of movies, a lot of things get picked up from film festivals. You know.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't have the funds for that, but if I give, I don't even know how that works. Like I've got no idea how the movie business works, but
Mhm.
I mean, I would love taking any and all steps towards that for sure.
Yeah. Uh, mhm. Film festivals. I think that'll be the first step. But the only reason why I'm saying that is because Ray and I, we have a background in photography and film, and so there
Hmm.
are some books on display like yours and
Hmm.
a couple others who have stories that you could definitely see as a movie or just scenes. And your book is full of these type of scenes that you could see
Hmm.
on a movie, and that'll make you be like, ah, or like,
Yeah.
you know. So it was really cool. Um, Thank you, Theo, for your time today.
Thank you
Um,
very much for having me.
book Muddy Waters is available here at Hidden Gems Literary Emporium. You can come on by. We're at 55B Morris Street in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And you can also give us a call at 609-361-4331 because we will ship this to your house. Um, Also, you can connect with Theo online at
Facebook, just search Theo Clarkson. Uh, I have it's not a very well kept business page, but it's there. I look at it every once in a while. So
if you send
I'll try to stay connected.
respond.
Yeah, I will definitely do my best. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Everyone support Muddied Waters. It's a really cool story, especially if you like what they call the golden age, right? That's what they
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
Um, and please continue to support Hidden Gems Literary Emporium. Come on by the store, check out what we got. And if you have one of our business cards, on the back is a QR code for our free mobile library. So check that out. One of our goals is to distribute, of course, the author gets paid, but to distribute thousands of free copies of independent authors' books. So a sponsor or ourselves, we would pay you for the books, and then we would just pass them out to kids or adults um, for free. And so our motto is to spread love through literacy. So that's our goal.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Theo, for your time. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.